Keeping your business healthy in today's marketplace can be a challenging and overwhelming task. From the threat of litigation inside and outside your organization and the inefficiencies that can rob your bottom line as a result of unproven marketing programs, the deck can be stacked against you. To get ahead of these challenges and stay ahead of your competition, the Bottled Business Sense Show provides practical business solutions that uniquely emphasize key legal principles, management techniques, and marketing strategies to protect and ensure the longevity of your business. You'll learn how to implement marketing and protection principles equal to those used by today's most successful corporations. Join your hosts Bill Bernard, Rick Moscoso, and Steve Smith for some high-energy discussion that will inspire you to take control of your business so it can prosper in today's consistently challenging business environment.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Bottled Business Sense Show. I'm Rick Moscoso, one of your co-hosts this morning. It's Tuesday at 10 o'clock, and I'm really excited to be here today with my co-host, Bill Bernard. We're here actually celebrating our 100th episode, quite a milestone for us, and really excited to deliver to you, or over the past couple of years, providing you guys with free information in regards to marketing for your business, also protecting your business through the legal knowledge of Bill. And we look forward to really just continuing and doing another 100 episodes and celebrating that milestone. We're actually coming up on 2 years in June. So very excited for that. Hopefully we'll have something very exciting to celebrate there. But in the meantime, for all you new listeners out there, welcome. And without any further ado, I'm going to introduce my co-host, Bill Bernard.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, it is indeed a pleasure to be here. 100 episodes. Gosh, it's 100 shows. It's amazing how time flies when you're having fun, huh? But anyway, we are, as Rick said, really pleased to be here. I think we've got an interesting show. Rick and I talked about what we would do for the 100th episode, and we decided we would do kind of a group a recap, if you would, and that we're going to call the show Running a Smart Business 101, and we're going to give you 5 legal points with a little bit of discussion on each as to what you can do to protect your business and make it run efficiently and make sure it's a smart business. And Rick's going to do the same with some marketing tips, and hopefully your business will be like a smart TV. You just click on it, and wherever you want to go, it's going to take you to the right station, right? And you're going to be able to make it through the tough times and appreciate and celebrate the great times. So without further ado, let me start by giving you 5 points that I'm going to be referencing. We're going to be talking about, you might remember these from previous shows, we're going to be talking about establishing a business entity to protect your business. We're going to be talking about making sure you have that business intact by making sure the corporate veil or the business entity veil is not pierced. That's number 2. Number 3, we're going to talk about making sure that all of your contracts that you do in your business with clients or with vendors are going to be the proper contracts that have the right contract terms. Number 4, we're going to talk about if you have employees, make sure there's no discrimination or retaliation in your business. And number 5, we finish it up by saying, hey, here's how you take care of your personal assets and make sure they go onto your heirs appropriately without cost and expense and needless time, by talking about some brief estate planning issues. So that really summarizes everything I do as a business lawyer. And I know, Rick, you're gonna probably discuss some interesting marketing tips as well.
Yeah, right? and I think we can fold in some of these data points in with what you're talking about. And really, from the beginning when we first started doing this, it was all about marketing for the small business, understanding how to do that more effectively, and then how to fold video marketing and distribution, into that, so you could create the type of credibility and expertise to your following out there. So really, it's knowing your audience. How do you stay connected? establishing credibility and expertise using video marketing techniques, and then also how do you distribute that to the masses. So I think we can fold in a lot of that stuff with your discussion as well.
Good. That's great. Let's start out with establishing the business entity. As you might remember from long ago, the first couple of episodes or shows, we said that we wanted you to enticize, and that was kind of a word I coined, where I'm basically telling you to take it from being a sole proprietor or a sole entrepreneurship to some sort of a business that will provide you with protection. And the key point I want to make here is a very simple one, although it's one that a lot of people seem to be confused about. Establishing your business entity protects your personal assets. When you establish a business entity and there's litigation involved or some claim made against your business, you are no longer susceptible to invasion of personal assets as long as you keep your business running properly. Your liability insurance that you purchase for your business protects your business assets by giving you a deductible that you pay, and then the insurance kicks in for any claims that may be made. Now, there are exceptions to those, but the point is liability insurance and establishing a business entity are vastly different things, and you need to have both, not just one or the other, when you start your business.
As you know, recently, folks out there, Bill actually helped me just recently restructure my business. I am now the sole entrepreneur or sole owner of Captivate 365, and I asked Bill to help me out and set up an entity and make sure that that's formed properly and I'm protected in the ways that you promote
That's right.
over the last couple of years. And so it's been a very smooth process. A guy like Bill who knows all the legalese stuff kept me well informed, did most of the stuff that would have taken me forever to even handle. So definitely if you need something like that, use a professional who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Captivate 365 LLC, and there, in regard to that point, there's a lot of online stuff that you can get online and try to establish your own company. But believe me, there's going to be a lot of questions you can't answer, even when you do that, most often. And then whatever you do online on your own, you're not going to get the quality of operating agreement that you need for your business. And if you really want to know more about that, you should really make sure you know from this show that you need an operating agreement. If you want to know what that is, you can go to prior shows and experiment with that a little more in depth, or you can give me a call and I'm happy to help you. The second thing, Rick, that we want to make sure of is that we want to make sure once this entity is established that the corporate veil is not pierced. Now, there's a lot of ways the corporate veil can be pierced from a nasty kind of a standpoint, like fraud or something like that. But basically, what you have the most control over is making sure that your company is kept properly. Make sure you don't commingle accounts, money, that is, your personal money and your business operating account money. Make sure if you have a corporation, for example, you do your minutes and you file your statement of information. There are corporate formalities, not as much so with an LLC, but there are a few things you need to do with an LLC, like file statements of information. Bottom line here is on point number 2, once you establish that business entity, the job isn't necessarily done. You have to make sure it stays intact, because if you don't, and they pierce that corporate veil, then when they come and litigate against you, your personal assets can be reached, despite the fact that your intentions were good in establishing the entity to begin with. Yeah,
well, obviously there's some really good points that Bill has here. But why is it so important after you emphasize? Why is it so important to do these things to really protect yourself as far as your business is concerned from your personal assets?
Well, that's the simple answer to that is because you'll go down the tubes pretty fast if you don't have this protection. Because if you're one big litigation suit away from going, if you're a solopreneur, one litigation suit away from having your personal assets taken away from you if you're sued. Or even if you're sued and there's no judgment against you, how are you paying for this How are you paying for your lawyer?
Yeah. Now you've always said that you're not a proponent of a partnership, right?
Right.
Per se.
Right.
And always promoted emphasizing your business.
Right.
There's a lot of people out there that are just in a partnership situation, or they are just running their company or their business without any formality.
Right.
Talk about the downside of that. I mean, the main downside to that.
The downside is you're in the same boat as if you're a solopreneur in most often cases, unless you have a general partnership with a general partner and a limited partner. Then the limited partners have a limited liability. But let's say you just had the typical partnership, which you're referring to, a general partnership. In that general partnership, as opposed to a limited partnership, you have a bunch of guys or gals or a combination thereof together running a business. And why do they do it? Because it's the easiest thing to do. Let's go into business together. The heck with filing these documents with the Secretary of State. The heck with doing our formalities to keep the corporation running, up and running. And the heck with paying the taxes every year that we have to pay to the Secretary of State, which is about $800 in California. We don't want to do all that. We don't have the wherewithal to do that. We just want to hang out. We're friends. Here's the key: trust each other. And lo and behold, that trust more often than not gets thrown by the wayside.
And I'm sure you've seen plenty of that out there happen in friendly situations, familial situations.
Oh, especially,
yeah. That's
in fact, we did a show a while back with someone who talked about family businesses and what you need to do and how you need to treat it with the formality, even when you're in the family scenario, so you don't have this taken for granted attitude. Nothing's going to go wrong because we're all family and we would never hurt each other.
Yeah. Go back and take a look at our website, because there's some great data points here when we have talked about emphasizing your business. And from a marketing standpoint, it does make a statement, although a subtle one, in that you have crossed your T's and dotted your I's.
That's right.
And forming this official business, and you know what you're doing. You've protected yourself. You run yourself as a professional, and have done all the background things that are necessary to make sure that you have the right status or standing in your field. Yeah.
I mean, who's got more of the marketing power, McDonald's or the guy selling hamburgers on the corner outside the courthouse? That's a good way to look at it, and that's a good point. I mean, look at all the estate planning issues you have in trust litigation when people challenge trusts, or in probate litigation where people are fighting over money. You need to formalize this stuff, and then you need to keep it intact. Well, point number 3 deals with the fact that now you've got your business established. Now you're getting it. Now it's intact. You're keeping your yearly formalities going. Now you want your whole business is going to be based in large part on contracts, either contracts with people you have working for you, contracts with vendors or clients or whoever, whether you have a product or a service. And so you need to make sure those important contract terms are in place. You need to have a lawyer in your team who can prepare contracts for you, make sure you're protected, indemnification clauses in case there's a liability issue. There's arbitration clauses to perhaps avoid court when there's a dispute, mediation arbitration clauses. An attorney needs to make sure you're not doing a personal guarantee. That is to say that if you have a contract and you sign it on behalf of your business, but yet you sign your own name to it, you could be liable by giving a personal guarantee that goes over and above your business, meaning if you're sued, your business is sued, you're sued, and now they can reach your personal assets. So you want to make sure a lawyer excludes personal guarantees. You want to make sure you have a severance clause in there, meaning if one part of the contract is found to be inappropriate, the rest of the contract still holds true. You want to make sure you have a modification clause to make sure that if this contract cannot be modified or changed in any way unless it's agreed to in writing by both parties to the contract. So there are a number of different issues that you need to make sure your contracts have in order to run your business efficiently and make it a smart business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a smart thing to do, because anytime, for me, when I do a a project for a client. It really sets the expectations. Could possibly set a timeline for when these assets, or most of my assets obviously are digital assets, when those are the finished product, when should they expect to have that complete, or what's the process as we go from pre-production to post-production to distribution. So all these things along the way, it's just really important to keep that client informed, but in a formal way, through a contract like you're talking about.
Well, Rick brings up a great point. You don't just want the protective clauses in the contract, but you want the terms to be very, very specific, so there's no confusion and no ambiguities as to who's going to do what when. Yeah, that's an important point, Rick. Well, once you have the contract terms, you have a lawyer looking over your contract terms. And remember, I've always said that the three big players you need on your team to make this a smart business is a lawyer, a marketing person, and a good accountant. This business may decide to get bigger. It may have employees. And so point number 4, you want to make sure there's no discrimination or retaliation going on in your company that could expose you to a lawsuit. And just a couple of quick tips on that. For discrimination, it has to be content-based. That means you can't discriminate against somebody based on age, race, sex, medical condition, those sorts of things. If there is that class-based discrimination going on, that could involve a major lawsuit. You also want to make sure that you don't fire somebody inappropriately if they have an implied in fact contract. That means where they've been working at your company for a long time and they've gotten positive, good reviews, that could potentially negate the at-will employment status in California and make you responsible for terminating that person only for reasonable cause. Because otherwise, without that, you can terminate anybody at any time. In California, it's an at-will employment state. You just have to make sure there's no implied in fact contract, there's no discrimination, and lastly, a written contract, of course. If you have a written contract that says under which conditions you can terminate somebody, you can't just terminate them unless those conditions are present.
Yeah, and would the same thing apply then? Like for me, I'm a solopreneur. Quite frequently, I outsource projects or work that it's just too time consuming for me, and it's time away from my business, and meeting new clients and keeping existing clients happy. Would the same thing apply then if you are hiring somebody to do just small little project works, not a full-time employee, but somebody that you would potentially be 1099?
Well, you're I think from what I'm hearing, Rick, attempting to distinguish between employees and maybe independent contractors. There is a show that we've done in the past on independent contractors, and I didn't include it in full bore in this show because it's very intricate and long involved, where a lot of employers mistake. Because remember, it doesn't matter what you call somebody. You can call them an employee or an independent contractor. It really depends on a number of factors as to whether they're one or the other. But long story short, you want to make sure you don't practice any of these discriminatory things in your. If you're somebody in your business practicing discrimination, whether it's a small project, an independent contractor, or an employee, they're going to practice it across the board, chances are. So you want to make sure that you make sure it's zeroed out of your business altogether, and that requires you to have an employee handbook. Come to somebody who can do those, like myself, who can write because it's essentially, in a way, a contract. You have an extensive employee handbook that spells out all of the obligations of the employer and the employee. Those are typically not given to independent contractors, but you want to make sure you don't practice discrimination or retaliation. Retaliation, by the way, being where an employee in your business, complains about something that you're doing that's potentially illegal, and you rat it out, and then you're fired. That's called retaliation. And California law provides prohibits that. So that's another thing you want to make sure you don't. You want to make sure. I know a business just recently that was dumping some toxic waste, right? And one of the employees complained and went to the appropriate agency and was terminated, and it resulted in a huge lawsuit. So you need to make sure those things don't occur.
Yeah, and folks, we did an episode not too long ago in regards to this topic. So take a look at the website at bottlebusinessshow.com and search for employment. I think it was employment law, or
it was under employment law. I don't
Yeah.
recall the exact title of the show, but I know the ones. There was one on discrimination, I believe, specifically in the title, and there was another one, of course, on independent contractors versus employees.
Right.
And finally, now, okay, so we've touched upon establishing the business, and we've talked about employment issues. So, asset protection and employment. We've talked about those. Now we're going to round it out by saying, now, what do I do with my personal assets? Assuming they're protected, what do I do now? Well, you want to make sure you have a good estate plan. And you want to make sure that you avoid the time consumption and the fees that your estate will be charged once you pass, as long as you have a living trust. And the living trust involves a living trust. It involves powers of attorney for assets, powers of attorney for health care, meaning somebody can make decisions about your health care if you're incapacitated, about your business if you're incapacitated. It has pour-over wills, and it has a number of other documents like trust certifications. Anyway, long story short, make sure these are included in your estate plan, and now you're rounded out. You've got the protection you need, not only for yourself, but for your family. Because if you're a person of integrity, I think, in my personal opinion, you're going to want to make sure your family's protected. Don't take the attitude, well, I don't care what happens when I die. That's just being selfish, and the probate court then has at it. They can charge your estate and have a lot of fun doing it while the attorneys, I've said before many times, you can become very well off being a probate attorney and taking probate cases, because probate fees are statutory. They're based on a percentage of the estate. And if there's some big estates out there, which there are, you can rake it in.
Well, yeah, I think one of the misperceptions out there is that they think that this type of thing is for the wealthy, right? Mm-hmm. The well-to-do. And, case in point, we just had a recent death here in the entertainment industry.
Mm-hmm.
Prince just passed away. Mm-hmm. And while he has, he's a ton of assets, he was also involved in a lot of litigious things, and he had a team of attorneys help protect his business assets and business surroundings. So it's not just for the well-off. It's I'm sure you would recommend this to anybody.
No, it's the same thing, Rick. I mean, if you have a small estate and you want to leave it to your family, and that's basically your mark on the world, and that's what you want your family to have. Well, it works both ways. A small estate won't be raked over the coals as much, but even though there's less to lose, you're going to lose some of it and make what's less even lesser, right? So that's the way you need to look at it, and make sure your heirs, and because a will without a trust is going to end up in probate too. All a will does is say, if you don't have a will, it goes by law, by intestate succession. Who's your heirs? Who's your relatives by law? All a will does is say, well, yeah, they may be my relatives, but I'm going to put it in formation in line with who I want to get what. Still, it goes to probate. Only a trust will allow it to escape probate, and that's really important. I think what everybody needs.
And this is also a topic that we've mentioned before.
Oh,
we've
yeah.
discussed this as well.
Oh, yeah. We've got estate planning issues in shows that we've done in the past. I think one of the first few shows we did, I don't know, first 5 or 10, I would think, are on estate planning, or one or two of them are anyway. So we've covered the gambit here in 100 shows. We're really proud of it. We've covered. We brought on a new co-host, Steve Smith, to join us, and he's here from time to time. We have the three of us are prepared to go forward, from the respect that if one of us can't make it, there's always going to be somebody here who can contribute, at least on a 2-man show, and hopefully bring you some advice that you can use. Remember, it's all free, folks. There's not much in this life that's free anymore. That's for certain. I think I hope this show has been helpful for you in terms of a recap of making your business a smart business. I know because of time allowances, we didn't maybe get into as much marketing issues as we could have, but Rick's here and Steve's here, and they can help you on those issues. And I know Steve Smith has growthsourcecoaching.com. You can go there and get a hold of Steve. And how people get a hold of you, Rick, with the new Captivate 365. Well, don't forget, Captivate 365 LLC. Right. You got to get used to saying that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll reserve the full marketing show for our 2-year anniversary.
There you go. We'll do that. We'll do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, Bill helped me, like we mentioned, with forming my new LLC, Captivate 365 LLC.
Right.
And I am a video marketing professional, all the way from personal branding, business branding, to outbound production and outbound marketing. So a lot of visual stuff. It's more than just putting a camera on a tripod and taping the audio. It's really, how do you get that out to the masses, distribute it, grow your credibility and expertise with your following. So when the need does come arise, they're familiar with you. They know what you've done. They trust you because they've taken to heart the information that you've shared with them over a period of time.
Right.
And so that's what I try and accomplish with the business owners.
Just go to my website and take a look at the videos Rick's done for me. You can go to my LinkedIn site and take a look at the videos we have up there. Those are all Rick's, and we're very proud of them, and we're here to help. So again, without further ado, you can contact me at wfplegalconsulting.com or Bill at wfplegalconsulting.com. And we have phone numbers you can contact us at. They're all over our website. We have LinkedIn, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have a Bottle Business Sense newsletter. So we're out there. All you got to do is Google us, and we're at your service.
Yep.
So
don't forget Google Plus, and also if you ever want to feed us some topics that you'd like to hear us discuss, reach out to us at bottlebusinesssenseshow@gmail.com, or even if you have interest in being a guest on the show, reach out to us, and we'll be happy to entertain it.
Sounds good. So until next time, folks, we'll look forward to being with you again. And again, I hope this was a helpful recap on running a smart business 101. And until next time, have a prosperous week and be good out there.
All right. We'll see you next week, folks.
Bye-bye, everybody. Stop this.